Sabrina.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much, Michele.
Take
Have
care.
a great day. Okay, bye.
You too. Thank you. Wow. Okay, so it's time for our second half of the program. I'm so excited. As I said earlier in the program, that we have today with us Daniel Fiverson, who is an evolutionary astrologer, trained in the Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Evolutionary Astrology. He's also a student of astrology, the I Ching, and tarot since the conjunction of Uranus and Pluto and Virgo in the 60s. So he's got a breadth of information, insight, and a deeper understanding as to what is going on transit-wise. What are the energies that we're working with on a planetary level? Daniel's work has also been published in the Journal of Evolutionary Astrology, published by the Jeffrey Wolf Green School of Evolutionary Astrology. You can find him on Facebook as well as 4evolutionaryastrology.com, and that's the number 4evolutionaryastrology.com. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the program.
Hello. Michele. Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh, my gosh. I can. So much change, transition. We've had a couple of people that have had a lot of planets in Capricorn, really going through it, Capricorn and Cancer, and wanting to get out of patterns, right? Sex patterns.
Yep. Well, we've got the celestial support that we're going to need. We just have to recognize it and be proactive with it, right?
Okay,
it's
that's
here.
a good point.
I mean, it's hard for us not to, because it's gonna carry us in one direction or another. It depends on which way we want to go. So
yeah.
But yeah.
Can you talk about that, because it does seem like that, and we had some callers saying, I've tried to do this way or go this way, and it just something won't let me, or it doesn't happen. And I've had that even with clients. They're like, they're not. It's like, clearly they're supposed to be where they are, and then they're like, no, I tried to leave, or I tried to get a different job and I can't right now, and it's like, I just am working on myself. What is that that's going on, and do you have an understanding of that? Can you share what's happening?
Sure. What I'd really like to do today, if I can, and then we'll get to that question and everything else. I have a quote here from Carl Jung. I'd like to read.
Okay.
It's something he wrote in 1956, and it just so applies to what's going on. And I think it's a good jumping off point. So let me read it. He said, "A mood of universal destruction and renewal has set its mark on our age. This mood makes itself felt everywhere, politically, socially, and philosophically. We are living." This line is really what got me. We are living in what the Greeks called the kairos, the right moment for a, quote, metamorphosis of the gods, of the fundamental principles and symbols. This peculiarity of our time, which is certainly not of our conscious choosing, is the expression of the unconscious human within us who is changing. Coming generations will have to take account of this momentous transformation if humanity is not to destroy itself through the might of its own technology and science. So much is at stake, and so much depends on the psychological constitution of the modern human. That was in 1956. And it's just so telling. I think the technology and science part also is just so, it just pulls us right into, what we're sucked into in our lives, and what is controlling us, and really what's going on. But Saturn and Pluto.
That hit it. Boy, that hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and what's interesting and from that Carl Jung quote is that, it's the unconscious aspect of us. It reminds me of a teacher of mine that said it's possibly very conscious in many areas of your life and one not so conscious, and that we can't do anything. Right. It's happening. It's happening. Right. Wow. And that was in the well, he's ahead of his time. Always. He has I think patterned our time and given us an understanding. But that's another whole Carl Jung's another whole discussion, certainly.
it's coming from
Okay.
within
Next
us,
time,
and it's
next time you come on, we'll dive into that. Yeah, pattern. So that's true, like a psychological Nostradamus. So he patterned, and that these influences would be taking place. And of course, here we are, right? Where everybody, I would say this is what we've been preparing for, and now here it is. We're in it. Is that
be careful what you ask for, right? Be careful what you ask for, right? It may just happen, but it's all good. And what really, I'm getting a lot of clients who are coming to me who are really beyond the point of upset or disturbed or confused. They are losing their ability to understand and function, not necessarily in their personal lives, but understanding the world around them. And we have to look at have to look at the long cycles. We have to look at these long cycles of time and understand the particular Kairos moment that we are passing through and the importance of this particular moment, because this year is tremendously impactful. Like for many of us, it's going to be one of the most critical years in our lives, and it's already started out that way. January has been really rock'em and sock'em in my world already, very, very much so. And in good ways, but also in ways that are unexpected, in ways that are challenging. Two close friends have passed, and it's just a lot of things that we never really can be prepared for until they actually happen. But I digress. So we're talking about Saturn and Pluto, and we're looking at a cycle, a 30-year cycle, okay? But what makes this month so critically important is that there are 3 long-term cycles that are all unfolding at the same time. And that's very, very rare. And there's also some wheels within wheels that, if we have time, involving Eris and asteroid Pallas Athena, that are adding, additional density and intensity to what Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter are doing. But let's talk about Pluto and Saturn and Pluto today, because that's what we kind of signed on to do. And if we have time and want to take any questions, we can look at the rest of it. So Saturn and Pluto really are uncomfortable together. Saturn builds things, and Saturn gets a lot of bad rap. Saturn brings skills and mastery. He is the lord of time and karma, because he opens the space for our growth, for our evolution. He is actually the structure of our consciousness. He forms this. He's the structure of how we bring our awareness into the world. And Pluto tears things down. So we have the generating force and we have the transformational force, both trying to, be, in bed together, if you would. The two of them are trying to meld and fuse their elements, and it's a very, very heavily charged atmosphere, heavily, very powerful. Saturn is,
and both are needed.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, we definitely need it. There was an event today. There were actually 2 events today, which are very Saturn Pluto, that we should mention. I don't know if anybody saw the news, but Vladimir Putin dissolved, or the Russian government was dissolved today, and it's a total power shift of Putin.
Wow!
Back some of the power that he lost. The prime minister has resigned. The whole country, the whole government was dissolved in order for him to recapture all that lost power. And in our country, we have the articles of impeachment being passed and agreed to, and we actually now have a president who has been impeached. Whether he is convicted or indicted, he will go down in history as being impeached. So all of the Saturn-Pluto cycles through history have been shifts in power, historically. Huge changes in power.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I found it interesting too that right before that they did that assassination of Soleimani, right? Right before the conjunction, which we were still in that period of it building, before it gets exact. And I thought, wow, talk about the old order, like, hey, I'm going to take the power back. It was like,
right.
we're not moving forward. I'm taking this. It was so old paradigm. So it seems to be playing out a lot, I feel, systems and governmentally. I love what you said, Daniel, about it also structures our mindset. I think people forget the abstractiveness of Saturn also. It's not just, institution. It's what creates the institution mentally, right? The idea, the thoughts and the ideas that go into creating the institutions that we have. I think that's very powerful for people too, right?
Yeah, it creates the structure for all of that. I think that the beliefs come from Jupiter, Michele. I think we bring our beliefs to it. We bring our opinions, our thoughts. So it's more of a Jupiter combination that we're going to see at the end of the year when Jupiter and Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn come together. But what we're seeing now is more of the physical. It's more of the physical structure of it right now. It's how things have become embodied and crystallized. Saturn crystallizes.
Yes.
It's Earth. It's cardinal.
Well, that's what I mean. It crystallizes what we've been thinking and what we envisioned. The ideas. It puts it into crystallizes and puts it into form. But ultimately, it's coming from ideas. It's just getting it. Saturn Capricorn is the form of it. Capricorn putting it in. Now, how does this? So we see worldview. A couple of things I want you to really touch on. I think you said remember the cycle. The long game, because it is very off-putting. It's almost like being in mid-gear. That it's okay. The gear shift isn't going like it used to. First and second, third, whatever. And so a lot of people are caught in this. Well, how do I do this? How do I do this now? What do I do? Or a lot is dissolving, or it's taken away, or it's gone. Now, where do I focus? It's like a little bit flailing.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're saying that short term, that what helps is to look long term, or why the flailing, I guess. I think a lot of the questions that the people calling in have been asking really are swirling around this same issue, because what we want to do it has to come from within us. It can't come from society. It can't come from a consensus reality. It can't come from what somebody else thinks is right or wrong, or what somebody else's ethics or worldview happens to be. It's about finding it within ourselves. That's Pluto. Pluto holds all that information. It holds the soul's intentions for being here. So when Pluto and Saturn come together, Pluto is working to get its lesson plan as a curriculum. It wants it to actually be a structure rather than just some idea or just some mental plan. It actually wants physicality. It wants to generate and plant it so that it can grow. And so we're at a seed moment. This is going to unfold over the next 30 years. But the Capricorn energy, the Capricorn energy of Saturn is what is overlaying this entire process. And we have been in this process since 2008, since Pluto entered Capricorn, entered Saturn's sign. And we had the squares from Uranus to Pluto and Capricorn. And now we have Saturn and Pluto actually coming together in Saturn's sign. It's tremendously impactful, and it is it's an event that will mark a turning point in history in a lot of different ways. What's also exacerbating all this is this conjunction, which happened 3 days ago, is sandwiched in not sandwiched because the two eclipses were just before, but there was an eclipse 2 days before the conjunction. So we're in the middle of the lunar eclipse, right?
Right. So all this energy that over literally the past 12 years has all come to be embedded in this single event that happened 3 days ago. It's like everything came to the end of one cycle, and then it was part of the seed that's now going to germinate and grow into something much greater over the next 30 years. And it's really difficult to say how is this going to play out. We don't really we don't know because it's a function of the choices that we're going to make. But what's hopeful here is that our consciousness is expanding. Our consciousness is also being affected by this because we have there are other planetary factors here that are bringing much more awareness and a sense of time and a sense of place and a sense of what we really need to do. Pluto compels us. Pluto doesn't say, "Hey, I want you to think about something." Jupiter says, "I want you to think about it." Pluto puts it on your plate and says, "Here's your dinner," and if you don't eat it, he shoves it down your throat. I mean, it's you get force fed. So we're working through a very compelling time. And again, it's not like these guys are our enemies. They're not, because they are just the parts of our higher self that we have tasked to do this. Okay?
To do this,
right. They're not separate from us. They're not foreign from us. They're not out to get us or anything like that. What they're doing is they are laying out the groundwork, which I think is a good Saturn word, for how we need to go forward and what really is important. Because it's coming down to what's really essential. That Uranus and Taurus, we're individuating in ways that are expressing how we can fulfill our essential needs. That it's no longer about what we want. It's really about what we need. We're at a critical point, whether it's the climate or whether it's our political situation or the political polarization or all the gun violence or what's going on in the world there's no compromise anymore. We have to find some synthesis between all these conflicting viewpoints and perspectives. And much of what's coming out is again, this conjunction is conjunct the South Node. The South Node is the past, and it's why we're seeing all these things from the past that are just in our face and having to deal with them. Because in some cases we've ignored them for 6,000 years, and in our country we're looking back 250 years of things that we just kind of swept under the rug.
So is it this kind of, which is so Pluto digs it up, like you didn't look at this, you forgot about this, or mostly you didn't look at this. So it sounds like when you said the word compelling or compelled, you're compelled, there is this being compelled to handle it now or fix it now or address it now. Was that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's a perfect assessment. It's coming. Symptoms are an attempt by the body to heal. So the symptoms are xenophobia, misogyny, racism, ethnic. All of these things are symptoms of a disease of our culture. And it's not just in our country. It's around the globe. The authoritarianism. There was an article in The Economist magazine last year that ranked governments, and there were 167 governments currently on the planet that were all ranked with some degree of authoritarianism. We have crystallized to a point where the control factor has become so uncomfortable that we're beginning to we're headed towards Aquarius. I think that's the good news. Though the Aquarian ingress isn't necessarily going to be any less. What's the word I'm looking for? Uranus disrupts and interrupts. Uranus takes all that Capricornian energy and shakes it and shatters it, so that something else can be built in its place. And this is the process that we're moving through, where all this crystallization is first being exposed, and it's being seen and understood to some degree, but mostly it's getting shaken up and being put in front of us so that we can deal with it. You said it perfectly.
Right. So we're really in the exposure. Some obviously could be some disruption, but we're not really in the disruption and rebuilding yet phase. Is that true?
Yes, we are. We've been in the disruption really since 2012. The Uranus Pluto squares 7 times. All the things that were too big to fail, that are gone from our world.
Oh, right. Okay,
Right. I mean, that's
so
part of
still,
our angst.
That's part of the
part
angst,
of our angst
is the dissolving.
Yeah, is everything that's just gone. All the things that we took for granted that are just gone. Including the political thing that's going on in the United States. We take for granted that there's equality and that our Constitution is being upheld and that the Supreme Court is working for the people. And you hear what I'm saying? That we're losing faith. We've lost faith.
Well, we thought it was happening, and now we realize that it's possible for it to not happen. And to some degree, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened consistently behind the scenes. Now we're kind of seeing. It's like raw and exposed.
I think the raw truth, Michele, is that this is who we've always been, but we ignored it. If we lived in the North, we didn't think about what went on in the South. We didn't pay attention to anything that was outside our immediate world. Everybody was just focused on themselves and what they needed and their families and their work and their community, and we really didn't pay attention to what somebody else was doing. And I think that's human nature. We learn through direct emotional experience. Until we experience something ourselves in our bodies, in our emotional body, we don't get it. It's happening to somebody else, and that was a terrible thing, and I feel sorry for them, and now I got to get on with my life. But when it happens to us, everything changes, and the collective events, the global events, whether it's the climate change, events like 9/11, these are the symptoms. These are the direct emotional experiences in our zeitgeist, in the collective body, on the planet, that are getting us to realize that there's only one of us here on the planet. What happens to you affects me, and what happens to me affects you. And we have to be in that understanding. And it's not easy to get there because we're all distracted. We have bills to pay, and our kids have to go to school. You know the drill. So all these things are coming up in our face to get us to realize that there's something much bigger than just us that we have to get committed to. The reason we have the political situation that we're in is because 2 years ago in the last election, the Democrats, they said I can't vote for her and I don't like him, so they didn't vote. Even if only 30% of the American voters, or 40% are behind Donald Trump, they're a committed 40% versus an uncommitted 60%. And this is the lesson that we're learning, that we have to get out in the street. We have to get involved. That we can't just ignore it and expect somebody else to come and fix it for us, because it's not going to happen that way. Nobody's coming to save us. Nobody's coming to save us.
So Daniel, does this bring? So you have the individual manifestation of these aspects. Does this bring us more into like that oneness, that realization that we're part of the collective, and we not like what do we need to do? Is that part of this? That we all need to do.
That's what.
Okay.
Yes, that's what's happening in the long run, but it's not going to happen in March or April. We're looking
Right.
again at a long-term unfoldment here. But
Okay.
if we want to accelerate it, that's going to be a function of how many of us get on that bandwagon. That's the accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it takes us one by one to awaken and to realize what our responsibilities, because Saturn, that's a really strong Saturn word, responsibility. Saturn is totally responsible. That's why they get it done. That's why they're the commander in chief and the CEO and the captain of industry, because they take responsibility. Well, it's about self-responsibility.
Duty. Dutiful.
Right.
Dutiful Capricorn.
Right.
So how
Right.
does this affect the individual then? And you say you have a lot of people coming to you, and shout out to your website. Was it For Evolutionary Astrology?
Yes.
Is that it? The number 4?
Yes, the number 4 Evolutionary Astrology, yes.
.com. Yeah. So bring it to the individual. What can you share or suggest? Because people are very disoriented right now. I mean, you really have to trust that. I like how you said the higher self, that part of the individual. It's like you really have to trust that part of you now and let that part navigate. I find nothing else makes sense if you don't do it that way, but that's just what I've seen in my little world.
Right. Well, again, it comes down to responsibility. We have to take responsibility for ourselves, and it starts with us. It starts with our own health. Okay, how are we taking care of ourselves? Of self-care, what's our diet? Do we exercise, or are we just sitting in front of our computers all day? This kind of stuff. But then it goes to our neighborhood. Do we know our neighbors? Do we have any involvement in our community? If you go out and you walk around the neighborhood and there's trash in your neighborhood, you pick it up and throw it away, or do you just leave it there for somebody else to do it? It's this kind of mindset, and this keeps expanding outward, and it's the 100th monkey kind of principle, where it increases geometrically, and as we get this kind of involvement, people recognize that there is community. And as we change, as that, and community is an Aquarius word. So as we become to realize what community really means and what it means to be part of a community, then everything begins to change. When there's an evolutionary astrology philosophy that the soul has basically 2 intentions, two desires. The first desire was to separate from source, the wave that separates from the ocean. But the wave thinks it's just the wave. It forgets it's the ocean. And so there's this separateness that's created. But what's really happening is that the ocean is creating all these waves to come and experience itself. The soul does not have the 5 senses. We in our bodies, we have 5 senses. We can feel and learn and emote. The soul wants that experience, and that's what happens with us, okay? But in that process, and so we come in and we just want to have all the experiences, and that's fine. That's why we're here, to move along that line of awareness and evolution and experience everything, what it's like to be male, female, rich, poor, white, black, red, to have every experience possible over an infinite period of time. But ultimately, we come to a point where we begin to understand or remember that we're not just the wave, that we are part of the ocean. And that's the turning point of the whole cycle of evolution. It only has to be 51%, if you would, just that 1%, just to tip the scales. And then we begin to come back and recognize that there's a wholeness, there's a holistic thing going on here, that it's not just all these little separate individuals running around. And look at the natural world. The animals live in very, what I'm saying? Elephants and ants, they're in some ways they're much more intelligent than us.
They realize the synergy of it all. There's that recognition. Daniel, we're out of time for today. But look forward to having you back again. I love what you're sharing. I love what you said too, with not just on the collective, but individually, what people can do. That stretching, beyond, and the taking responsibility. I think that's the part of the big wake-up call for everyone. Like you said, no one's going to say you've got to do it. Where do you need to take more responsibility? I think that's a good
right. That's what the Hopis told us. That we are the ones we've been waiting for. Yeah.
Isn't that it? It's a little cosmic joke there. It's so true. You're waiting and waiting, and you look around, and I guess it's me.
Right.
Oh, Daniel, the chat is buzzing. Thank you so much for being here. Come back soon, sooner than later. I love having you on. I love what you share. And I think people, if you're interested in getting a reading, getting the 411 on this can be really, really beneficial, especially looking at the view of the evolutionary astrology point of view. I think is really pertinent right now, actually.
Can I do a little shameless self-promotion? Can I do a little shameless self-promotion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have just published a forecast book on Amazon, and it really covers this entire year in very comprehensively. I'm trying to put it on the chat. I don't know if it's showing up, the links, but it's on my website. It's called 2020 Vision. 2020 Vision, and it's an evolutionary astrology forecast for the coming year, and it will answer a lot of questions, and it will show you these long cycles that are playing out, and really what we're up against, and how to work with it.
Okay, great. 2020 Vision, Evolutionary Astrology Forecast, and it's on Amazon by Daniel Fiverson. So check that out. That looks great. Yeah, that looks really good. That'll help everybody. You always put things in such an easy way for people to understand, digest. So I appreciate that when you come on, and I'm sure, your writing is that way as well. So appreciate it, Daniel. Come back soon.
No, thank you.
Part 2, part
3. Thank you,
come
Michele. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye. All right, that was Daniel Fiverson. You can find out more information about him by going to forevolutionaryastrology.com, and that's the number 4, evolutionaryastrology.com. And I definitely suggest check out his 2020 Vision, Evolutionary Astrology Forecast on Amazon. It's just so good when we have an overview, and you can take a few different overviews and weave it together and see what really resonates for you, and use it as a template, a bigger map of what's going on for you, in the collective, what's going on. Tammy put it in the chat. Great. There it is. Intentional creativity pages, Lady whatever that. Okay. But it's on, I'm sure you can do a search on Amazon or do 2020 Vision, Evolutionary Astrology Forecast by Daniel Fiverson, and that will get you there. And also, if you want to play around, experiment with me on these key codes that I was given, we're doing the first one, but we're doing a longer meditation with these key codes. I mean, it's just, I can't tell you, people have been doing the meditation, things have just really been shifting. I use it, not only do the meditation, but I use the code as a mantra as well. So if you're up for that, that's this Saturday, the 18th at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. It's Quantum Key Code Alignment Meditation and Teleworkshop. You can find out more information by going to soulplayground.life. And you're more than welcome to do the exchange to purchase it, and then you can have it, and because it will do a recording. A lot of people do that, especially if they're in a different time zone where it's really early. Although we did have someone last teleworkshop that was up at 3 a.m. doing it. Louise from Australia was doing the workshop. Anyway, you guys, love you much, and it's so great to connect with all of you. Until next time, continue to shine your light, of course, and share your insights, and of course, keep awake. I'm getting woke.
Awakenings broadcasts every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Time. Archive shows available on iTunes. For continued awakened conversations and insights, join the Awakenings group on Facebook. And check out Michele's blog at soulplayground.com. And keep awake.